Greetings, my friend. We are all interested in the future, for that is where you and I are going to spend the rest of our lives. You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
10 minutes left. Yeah, but there's still some time. It's not the final score. We need more than the numbers we're given. Show us you live and breathe the game. You're more than a name. That's what we came for. We can bring you more than the score. Every story. Let's take this thing off of the field into the real world, away from the numbers,
Hello and welcome to episode 290 of the AFTN podcast. I'm just Joe DC. I'm joined by target man Nicholas Ruprecht. Hi Nick.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, we've just watched the game together, the Whitecaps Toronto game. Mixed emotions.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll talk through it, but yeah.
we'll try to get through this together.
We literally just
form of therapy.
Daniil Henry's own goal was 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, something like that.
So it's very raw right now. But let's soldier on.
Yeah.
Part one of our show, complete the sentences. We'll keep that the same. I think at a time like this, grievance structure is good for our lives.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel blank after that Whitecaps game.
I feel disappointed.
Yeah, I feel let down.
Let down is a good one.
I feel like that's more severe than disappointed.
Yeah, it's just one of those Whitecaps things that seems to happen.
In a way, it's
this
the most Whitecaps
thing that could happen. Yeah.
Okay, blank was the biggest factor. Will be the biggest factor in next week's game.
Away goals.
Yeah, true. Factually correct.
Away goals will be huge. I mean, that last
it
own
just
goal
changed everything.
Basically changed everything, and now it's in.
Confidence will be the biggest factor, I think. Yeah. I would give the Caps a blank out of 10 this transfer window. So just for people listening, we are recording this before transfer deadline. The Whitecaps did let go of Bernie Yabini, but we if anyone has been signed just before the deadline, we are so far unaware.
Yeah.
Unless we see it in the show, which would be great.
Yeah.
So out of 10?
5 out of 10.
Okay. So you're including the Davies transfer.
Yeah, I'm including the Davies transfer. I mean, the Davies transfer is a little bit of a wash because you're getting rid of your best player.
Yes.
And you're not getting any money.
But you keep him in a way.
But you're not getting any money.
Are you talking about our best player as a beanie? Or?
Well, no. I mean, you're not getting any money until
true.
the next transfer window, right?
Yep.
So it's kind of... I don't really look at it so much as a transfer per se during this window.
No, that's fair.
Because it doesn't really affect anything. I mean, he stays with the team. He'll play.
Yeah.
I mean, he played tonight.
I'll give him a 6 out of 10. And if they sign anyone who isn't terrible and who's not on a bunch of money, there's a rumor for a center back.
The El Salvadorian guy.
I think that's the rumor so far. And there's also.
I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, as we've just seen, CB sometimes can be a difficult position to play.
Yeah. There's also Vasco Frey, which is another guy. There's two players, and I can't find their names right now on my notes. But if they sign one or two of them, I don't think they'll impact the squad directly, but
no,
it would be good. Anyway, moving on. We have to talk about the TFC game. That's part 2 of our show. Let's go through it chronologically.
Yeah.
The start was quite balanced.
Yeah, the start wasn't too bad. They attacked a number of times.
By they, you mean?
The Whitecaps.
The Whitecaps, yes.
Yeah, they attacked a number of times. I mean, it was difficult. I think the crosses.
Yeah.
De Jong had one really good cross within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then
he split the line.
He split the line really well.
Yeah.
And then
Teixeira hit the crossbar.
Yeah.
It was one of those like vintage 2017 Whitecaps counterattacks, it felt like. But Davies was at the heart of quite a bit. But almost like very soon after that, Altidore had that far post chance.
Yeah.
And that kind of, showed that the vulnerabilities were still there.
Yeah, for sure.
And Altidore didn't seem like didn't have a great game.
No, he was kind of just walking around. He didn't seem to be he didn't drop deep to get any touches. He
quite often the defender would just waltz around him.
Yeah, exactly.
Then the penalty.
The penalty. I mean, I think that was a little bit of a poor play, obviously, by Ricketts.
It reminded me of Samuel Umtiti at the World Cup in the first game of France's World Cup. That handball that he did. It reminded me very much of that.
Well, I mean, sometimes you got to be handballing, but that was definitely not a case.
No, the penalty. Wow.
Yeah, that was a fantastic penalty by Kamara. I was not savable at all.
No, yeah, I was telling the room, which was you and my wife, that
and Declan
that I had never seen a penalty that good before, and I can't recall one. Some people will say he was close to missing, but come on.
True, but it went in, so
yeah.
Give him credit for deciding to try to hit the top corner there.
But almost immediately after.
Yeah, then they decided not to defend. Yeah, that was really bad. No one picked Osorio up, and he just waltzed into the box and was totally free.
Yeah.
So I don't really know who was supposed to be picking him up. Maybe Nowinski or...
Do you think if Gazal was on the field, he would have been there?
Yeah,
because in the second half, he showed that he was doing that a lot.
I think the Whitecaps actually played better in the second half than in the first half.
So...
we'll get to that.
Early in the season, we had this week by week, who's the best centre-back pairing thing. Let's do a midfield analysis.
Okay.
Right now, who are our two best midfielders?
I think
if you had to pick two to play together.
But I think it depends on the formation that we're playing as well.
Oh, yeah, 4-4-2 with Reina dropping.
Because with that 4-4-2, it just allows the wingers the freedom to go do whatever they want.
Which is amazing for Davies.
Yeah.
It gets the best out of him, you would think.
Yeah, and it gets the best out of whoever's playing on the wing.
Yeah.
Because Reina as well, when he was playing on the wing, he was getting forward a lot, and he was combining really well with Hurtado.
You mean in the second half?
In the second.
But he wasn't getting back. Yeah. Was the issue. I think it's Tybert and Gazal now.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And Felipe can't play for a couple games, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that very, very soon. Yeah, Davies was... going left and right a lot.
Yeah, he was switching a lot.
Yeah, I think that maybe at least twice he switched flanks. Seemed to have some joy against Morgan.
Yeah.
And a different kind of joy against Auro at right back.
Yeah, but I think he had more of an impact playing against Morgan. I think Morgan maybe is a little bit more physical and less slower.
Yeah.
And...
So, Davies would have more trouble getting his run started, but once his run
was on, he was already beat. He already had 2 or 3 steps on it.
Yeah, right? Whereas Auro could possibly recover.
Yeah, there were a couple of times where Auro at least was, matching him step for step. Yeah. Which is a different thing, but Davies is capable of beating either one because Davies, balance and change of pace like that. That still comes out even if he's playing against a fast defender, right? And Davies looked amazing. They were talking in the commentary about how his physicality and his athletic performance has increased from a sports science point of view. Yeah. And I'm not surprised at all. He seems to have beefed up a little bit and has a bit more strength. Yeah, I mean, there were a number of times. I mean, there was that time in the second half where Zavaleta pulled on him.
Yeah, and he just kept going.
And he just kept going. Yeah. And it was just okay, whatever.
The red card happened. So both of us seemed to be okay with it.
That was a legitimate... I feel like that was a legitimate red card.
I agree with you, but I don't think I've seen a single person online agree with us. Just based on scanning Twitter, we seem to be alone with this, which is an interesting
I don't know.
point of view to be in.
It seemed from the replay that we saw, his studs went into his leg. How is that? That's a red card.
Yeah. It could have been pretty bad, and I don't think.
Could you have given it a yellow? Yes,
but I can't fault.
But you could also give it a red. it felt like it was one of those things where it's like you had the ball, you lost the ball. Yeah. So what do? You make a bad decision.
Yeah, you lunge in.
And then you lunge in. And then, well, in this case, your bad decision gets punished.
At least it was right before the half-time break so that they could kind of reorganize. Because they did look organized when they came out.
Looked, like, I thought they looked better in the second half when they were playing down.
1-1 going into halftime. Mm-hmm. The Caps definitely looked way more dangerous. And the pattern of play, and I wonder if you agree with this, was that there would be a pack of 3 that would attack. So it was first Kamara, and then Reina and Davies, and then afterwards Hurtado, who we'll get to later because we both have very good things to say about him. They would attack as a group, and everyone else would just keep their structure in the back.
And I think that was probably a smart decision to not let everybody run forward, right? Because if you're already playing down a man, like... You know, as long as you're keeping, most of your players behind the ball, you'll have a good opportunity of either A, winning it back, or B, slowing down their attack or stopping it completely.
TFC were pushing, so there was that ball over the top. Reina had a couple of chances. Davies basically made his own chances. There was that one where if he just finished a bit better, it would have been
that was the one. Goal. Are you talking about the one where the goalkeeper kind of was coming out and there wasn't really an angle there for him to shoot?
Yeah, I think he was on his left foot. If you wanted to give him a 10 out of 10, he would have picked out the top left or bottom left, like later on Hurtado would do, right? I agree that the angle wasn't great, but you're still disappointed that there wasn't a goal there. He did. The problem is he did so well up to that point.
Yeah,
I think smoked like 3 players or 4 players at speed.
I do think though there was a little bit of there was that one break where De Jong was wide open. And he probably should have passed to De Jong on the overlap there.
There was a couple of should have passed.
There were a couple probably he should have passed it and not held on to it for so long.
But he was definitely the main force going forward.
But there was also the problem of people couldn't keep up with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Legitimately, they were not able to keep up with his speed, and
which is a funny problem to have.
The Whitecaps as well. And which is why I think it was also a good thing to bring on Hurtado.
And Davies made so much of those chances out of thin air.
He started a lot of those runs in his own half. Yeah. And, a couple of them in his own half. Right?
And Hurtado came on. And we... when he came on first, we both kind of... Because we watched the game together, we both agreed he's earned a chance. And after his performance, I think he's earned a bunch more chances.
And it's also a good decision because... the ball is going... If TFC is pushing higher up, there's going to be more space. Hurtado is definitely faster than Kamara.
Yes, and Kamara looked leggy.
Yeah.
So Hurtado held up the ball really well, first of all.
Fantastic. He did a really good job.
Almost better than Kamara would have done. And he's not the same kind of physicality, a different type of physicality, I should say. Build-up play, fantastic. Released De Jong a couple of times. Released Davies a few times. Nerwinski's overlapping was really good again. A quick word on the centre-back pairing, just as an overview. Apart from that last little blip...
If it wasn't for that last play, I thought they played extremely well.
Yeah, but that last play did happen.
So unfortunately... But that was basically an individual error.
And it came from the Whitecaps' right side, which we talked about. Perhaps there wasn't the coverage needed for the cross, right?
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is the winger maybe should have helped.
Needs to press a little bit more, make it more, make them rush the cross.
Yeah.
Don't give them time to set up.
But to be fair, the cross wasn't... We'll get to the goal. We'll get to the goal later. We're still discussing how Hurtado had a great impact. Yeah. His goal was amazing. Russell Tybert's ball.
Yeah. Perfect. Picking out that run and then Hurtado's fantastic little touch.
Which we've seen him get wrong before. We've seen him get it wrong many, many times before.
But he's... think about the NYCFC game.
Yeah.
First touch, boom. In. No problem. Mm-hmm. And then this game, nice ball over the top. One little touch, second touch, he just slots it perfectly in. Yeah. Down low into
You think we are in the era of a different Eric Hurtado?
I hope so. It would be fantastic if it was because he's been so great for the club for a long period of time. Very loyal. He's does his job.
Yeah.
And if he's been able to improve his first touch to match the strength that he has and the speed that he has, well, what more could you want in a in a striker, especially on a counter-attacking team.
Is that the main criticism you would have of Eric Hurtado, the player, before this kind of little spurt?
I would say like a little bit as well. Like his decision making was probably bad.
Absolutely. And today he displayed fantastic decision making, and on Saturday as well.
Yeah,
I think. But it's a small sample size. We have to bear that in mind. Maybe this is his role, like the guy who comes off the bench and gives you a great half hour or something like that. We're still kind of learning a little bit, but I think he's earned at least to come off the bench against Portland on the weekend, which we'll get to that game as well. Maybe even to start if you want to fully rotate for the away leg of the Canadian Championship.
Yeah.
Sure. Everything seemed good at that point, Nick. The board went up. 5 minutes of added time.
Stoppage time. Yeah, they were managing the game really well. They were trying.
Robbo was having a joke and a laugh with the fourth official.
Yeah.
And then Daniil Henry scored an own goal.
Yeah. That was...
a very ugly own goal, too.
That was unfortunate.
Yeah. So it was a ball to the... I'm not even going to say far post. It was a ball to the edge of the box.
It was a ball to Altidore.
Yeah.
And Altidore got the header.
And to be fair, he knocked it down into a tricky position. Yeah.
He put it in front of the goal and trying to put it across the goal.
But as a defender, which we both have played as defenders before, when you evaluate the situation, unless the ball is already going in, you shouldn't be making a decision that you could risk like that. Like, I can understand what he was thinking. He said, I'll knock it to Marinovic or I'll knock it to a corner.
Yeah.
But you have to do one or the other, right? And it's not just poor decision making, it's poor technique and carrying out of that decision.
Yeah.
It's
also increased, the difficulty is also increased because it's a very low header.
Yes. But
do you think?
But at that point, why do you go with your head?
Yeah,
why
I would say
slide in
and clear it away.
So it's disappointing on an individual level, and that individual mistake cost the game
and could cost them this.
It could well
because because when it was 2-1, Vancouver is in control of the situation.
Yeah,
TFC has to come out. They have to attack. That plays into our Vancouver's strengths,
our defending philosophy away from home.
Yeah, exactly. And also our attackers who want to get out on the break. And how many times did they do it this game?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but the one caveat I would add to that is that TFC have a style, and that style is based on possession. Mm-hmm. I don't think they can flip a switch and play on the counter or play with a very low block,
No, I would agree. But I think there becomes an urgency in your possession.
And if TFC are so comfortable in possession, they could just pass circles around the Whitecaps. I think on the Sunday's show they'll talk more about the implications of that game as a preview. It's still very raw for us, but we did send out a request for questions for the show, as we usually do. And just because of the interesting timing, there's some about this TFC game. Some of them are quite... I don't know. They're going to be harsh. Harsh. For example, Greg Petrie said, "Is there any proof that Whitecaps goalies and defense actually talk to one another?"
Good question.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think Marinovic should have come out for that ball?
Ooh. No, too far. Mm-hmm. It's too far.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But there should have been a level of communication. Like Marinovic could have, maybe he did yell out or clear or something like that, right? But Ken Funk did #Robbo out, but I think he does that a lot. Lorenzo Bonetti, was that the cappiest performance ever? Play out of their minds down a man and score an own goal in the last kick of the game against Toronto in the Canadian Championship final. Yeah.
I would agree with 100%.
I think it's almost a perfect compliment to the way that Toronto won the Canadian Championship before.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
Ousted and Waston.
That was exactly what I remember, was that Ousted and Waston miscommunication.
Yeah.
But then there was also the other Canadian Championship game where Will Johnson scored in like the last.
I think that was the same. That was the same.
That was
because Ousted punched it down.
Yeah, and then Will Johnson
We're a very good team for a Canadian Championship heartache at home, aren't we?
Yeah, I think so.
It seems to be a strength.
It seems to be it's just.
Yeah. Johnny Monster said, "Would a team of 11 Irish streakers fare better in the Voyageurs Cup than the Whitecaps?" No.
No, probably not.
As an Irishman and a streaker. No. Just joking. No, I think no Irishman can defend as well as Waston. John O'Shea.
Yeah, Waston was massive in that game.
John O'Shea in his prime or Kendall Waston right now? And bear in mind that John O'Shea once chipped the invincible Arsenal team and scored a goal for.
Would that have helped us here if you could have chipped in the last couple?
There was that funny moment when Waston got forward and just
tried to take a shot. Yeah,
and it went
in
out for a throw.
Half?
It got blocked, but you could see that. You could see his thought process. Some more questions. What do we have to do next week to win? That was from the One Wolf, and Arnie Slavinson said score more goals than TFC, which is the easy answer.
Yeah,
but in a more general game plan sense,
in a game kind of sense,
play smart, attack.
We have to
intensity. Sorry, that's the word I want.
Yeah, that would be a good option. I mean, maybe go down a man.
Yeah, we had this discussion actually. That is it possible? Because the Whitecaps played so much better when they were down a man, is that, and there's so many red cards, is that part of the game plan?
Yeah, I know.
We said it tongue-in-cheek. This doesn't shine well on Robbo either, this result.
Well, and another red card.
Yeah, it just seems he has no control over the outcome, really.
I mean, that's the problem, I guess, with... Are you talking about the red card problem?
No, even I'm looking at the game as someone who has watched a lot of football and plans to watch a lot more football, and it doesn't look like the Whitecaps just don't look like a team who are able to carry out whatever plan is there. Right?
They have no chemistry, is what you're saying.
Chemistry is a part of it, but I think. Maybe this is
Are they not tactically intelligent enough to carry out the plan?
I think we do not have enough tactically intelligent players. That's a separate issue, but it's a part of it. Me thinks, and this is all hypothetical. Is it more that the plan that Rob gives them, they are unable to carry out, and therefore not a good plan, kind of a thing? Or I don't know. At this level,
or is it that he's asking too much of them?
It could be We both play Football Manager a lot, and MLS is a 3-star league in Football Manager compared to the Champions League, which is a 5-star league, just for reference. And in a 3-star league, what is the complexity of your game plan? Are you able to tell your team to do very sophisticated, little, interchanges and look for patterns of play and trigger on certain kind of events that happen? The thing I always bring up is the trap, right? Yeah. You let someone get the ball and then you have allowed them. Yeah, you have allowed them to get the ball so that they turn it over. I don't think that exists in this team.
Well, I definitely don't think it exists in this team. But I think if you look at the wider scope of the MLS, teams that have an identity, do better.
But
it doesn't matter what that identity is.
Yeah, but I don't
think
as
long as they have an identity that is also well drilled.
Yeah,
they can usually do it week in and week out. And I think one team that pops into my mind is New York Red Bulls. Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily swashbuckling, but they have an identity.
They have an identity. They like to press high. They like to win the ball back.
Yeah,
and then you think about Atlanta.
Yeah,
again,
but that's a complex identity though. That's the one team them, and I could think of maybe one or two other teams that actually have a level of sophistication to their tactics, right? They basically took a bastardized Barcelona way of playing and use it.
Yeah.
Because the coach is a former Barcelona coach. That's what the fans were sold, and that's what seems to be happening, right?
Yeah.
The Whitecaps, I don't know. They remind me more of a team that's just above the relegation zone in the Premier League than they do of a team that's actually trying to do something, right? Mm-hmm. And let's be honest, the Canadian Championship isn't a hard championship to win. You play against two other MLS teams.
But again, I would say you play the same number of games as MLS Open, US Open Cup games.
Yeah.
So it's the same number of games. Is it a different format? Yes. I think it's a more strategic format because you have to think about what you're going to do over two legs, not just one game.
No, I agree.
And I would argue maybe it's actually a little bit more difficult because you have to consider the fact that you're going to play two games no matter what.
Well, it becomes about how you approach that first game of the two-legged system. But today was a good example of kind of a weird two-legged thing because TFC, if you could offer, this was discussed on Sunday's show. I was on Sunday's show and we're talking with Steve and Michael about this. If you offered a TFC fan to make the playoffs and lose the Canadian Championship. I'm not sure what a TFC fan would say. Mm-hmm. If you offered me to win the Canadian Championship and miss the playoffs, I would probably take it. Like, with all the cards on the table. Like, yeah. So, like, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, TFC might not be too bothered if it means they win all their games around this,
but then
this competition.
I would argue TFC is probably also highly motivated to win this competition because they've had a terrible year as well.
Yeah, but they're trending up, and the Whitecaps have been middling.
That's true.
They TFC had a good draw against Atlanta at the weekend.
Yeah,
and to be fair, the Whitecaps had a good result too. But anyway, there's all these kind of emotions and the fallout from this game and all the coaches' comments and things like that. They're going to kind of change how we look at this game. Mm-hmm. But it's good we have this little time capsule.
Yeah.
To review on it. So let's jump forward. Let's go to the weekend. Not an easy game at the weekend, Nick.
No, against Portland.
Yeah.
Cascadia Cup standings on the line.
Yeah. If we can win the Cascadia Cup, I'd be surprised.
In theory, we could win the Cascadia Cup.
I'm not sure what the standings are you?
The Timbers and Sounders each have 3 points.
Okay.
But the Sounders have played 2 games.
Portland are doing very, very well. They started kind of iffy. Right now, they're 7 points ahead of the Whitecaps with 3 games in hand, and they're second in the West.
They're doing quite well. I don't think I expected them to do that well.
Well, especially the way they started, I was surprised that they kind of. I think that they're winning their unbeaten streak now is, what's the number? It's a very big number now.
14.
14.
Or no, wait, 15.
15.
They are unbeaten in 15, and I think the MLS record is like, what is it? The MLS record is set by Columbus, apparently.
Oh.
In 2004.
Nice. I heard someone say that this was, if they avoid defeat here, it will be their longest unbeaten streak. Portland's longest unbeaten streak. They haven't lost a game since early April in MLS. They lost an Open Cup game last month or some time ago.
Yeah.
And last week they comprehensively beat Philadelphia.
Yeah, 3-0.
3-0. Just, as easy as you like. Multiple threats. That seems to be how they're getting here.
It is multiple threats, but I think their identity, or for lack of, like, in this version of the Timbers, is very fantastic counterattack. Like, because Diego Valeri is not playing very deep, he's playing very forward, which is allowing him to get a lot of opportunities.
Yeah.
He used to work with Addy, but not anymore. But the new
Armientos.
Yeah, and also the wingers, Blanco and their wide player. Who's there?
Well, Powell plays. So
Powell is kind of like a.
But yeah, it's a 3-5-2, and Powell is on one side.
Yeah,
and on the other side is. It was Vitas, but he just got traded. Oh, Valentin, who is more of a defender, but he can play in that further up position. Yeah. Armientos and Blanco and Valeri are the 3 people that stand out to me. Blanco, he's bedded in really well on that team.
Dynamic. I think it's that dynamic counterattack. Yeah, really, and that they have.
Armientos seemed a little bit like a. He seemed kind of haphazard when he started a little bit, but he's really settled in, and he's come back from a small injury, and he's been doing such a dangerous player in the box. He's 7 goals already. Blanco has 6, and Valeri has 8. Between them, they have most of the goals that Portland have scored this season.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to that being that interchange on the counterattack. It's kind of very Whitecaps-ish. Yeah. In a sense.
But a bit more quality.
better executed now.
Yeah, but the Whitecaps rely on one guy to make most
exactly.
of it. But I don't think, you could take Valeri out of that team. Valeri plays as one of the, essentially one of the strikers. The Reina role, I guess, in the...
Well, he plays more like in a free...
roaming playmaker.
He can do what he wants, basically.
Yeah. But it's that midfield core behind him that make that possible. Yeah. Much like what the Caps are trying to replicate. There's lots of similarities here, actually. Yeah. Only just realizing it now. It's Chara, Guzman, and then Blanco is the more creative person in the central midfield 3.
Yeah.
just a caveat for that though, they've played 3-5-2 last week and it worked really well. Mm-hmm. That's why we think they're going to play it this week as well.
But they've played that 4-3-2-1.
Yeah, they've 4-2-3-1 in different kind of versions of 4-3-1. The 3-5-1-1, 4-4-1-1, 4-4-2, and a 3-5-2.
Just a bunch of numbers.
Yeah,
just a bunch of numbers.
Yeah,
I think that's
that German coach that says formations actually don't mean anything.
Well, I think that's the point with this Timbers team. Yeah. Is the formation doesn't really matter. It's what they're trying to do. Does the formation matter a little bit? Yes, but ideally, what they're going to defend very compactly and release those 3 players. How they release those 3 players against you is more related to the setup of the team.
Yeah, so it's more not tactics but dynamics then.
Yeah.
So like the chemistry between those 3 players. Mm-hmm. Armientos, by the way, was hanging out with Romelu Lukaku a few weeks ago. I saw it on Lukaku's Instagram story, so that's cool. The 3-5-2 isn't a very popular formation, it seems. Some teams that do it very well. And
Colorado tried to do it. They didn't do it very well.
Yeah. By Colorado standards, they did it very well, which the standards are quite low.
Actually, anyway.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's a lot of emphasis goes on those 2 wide players. And essentially it's like there's some fluidity up front, but those 2 wide players have a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
Last game it was Valentin and Powell. Is there some potential there to like? It's obviously scary going forward because kind of like the TFC game today.
They played a version.
The wing backs get a lot of space and things like that. But is that also a potential weakness, Nick?
Well, I think you kind of saw that in this game a little bit, right? Especially with when Davies got on the ball in those wide spaces, he was able to create a lot of havoc.
Yeah,
I think he probably in this game he could have driven wider than more going towards the middle because there's 3 central defenders.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think if it's going to come down to, I hopefully Davies plays a little bit, but maybe Breccia plays or...
Oh, God.
He played Ibini won't play.
Ibini's gone. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Great news for the Whitecaps. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. The emphasis will be about how the Caps set up against that fluidity up front. Mm-hmm. And with the 4-4-2, you can kind of bank on that there'll be enough numbers, especially with the deeper midfield that the Whitecaps.
Well, hopefully they play.
Yeah, we'll get to that as well. We had a very interesting discussion during the game. Just a quick word on their goalkeeper. It's Antonella, who's having a really, really good season. I don't know if you've seen him much.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, I've been really, really impressed with him. He just one of those, MLS guys that's been hanging around for a bit.
Thinking about their kind of going back to their core, I think Guzman has been fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Like I was looking up some of the stuff that he's been doing in some of the games and looking at some of his stats. I mean, like the last game, he had 7% of all their possession
by himself. Wow. And Chara's beside him, so
yeah.
Like, and those two are very
like Chara can sniff out and position himself against any danger, and then also if he isn't able to do that, he could physically outmuscle you.
Yeah. Is he like the N'Golo Kante of the MLS?
I think that's maybe a stretch. I think that's a bit of a stretch because he doesn't cover. I don't think he can cover enough ground as Kante does.
Will Trapp. I'm trying to think of who's.
Will Trapp is not a good running defensive midfielder. He's
Bradley. I don't know.
But I think like Guzman is like Chara is basically I'm going to set up a position.
Yeah.
I'm going to win the ball back, and Guzman is that connection between. The back line and those forward 3.
Yeah. And then Blanco.
I think maybe that might be a way to target if you can somehow make sure that he doesn't get as many touches as he can on the ball.
I feel like the Whitecaps have tried, allowing a player to have a ball in a certain position before. Mm-hmm. In my mind, it's the Kansas game where Johnny Russell ran rings around the Whitecaps defense, and it didn't work because the player just hurt them from that position. Mm-hmm. I forget the specific player that was doing that, but it, in my mind, it reminded me of that. I think Guzman and Blanco are too dangerous to let loose. I think you almost have to man mark them. There'll be 3 players in the Whitecaps midfield, hopefully, if Reina can get back into that attacking midfield spot. And there's 2 defensive midfielders. Like, that's more of a matchup I would like to see rather than damage control, especially with players that they can release the ball to as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've compacted this section a little bit, but we do have a little game to get us raise the spirits a little bit before we have to talk about the Whitecaps again, which sounds very terrible. Nick, the World Cup was not long ago. I saw this interesting thing. It was actually from FIFA's official Twitter account. They said, make a team, but you can only use 1 player from each country. Okay, so what we're going to do is, there's 2 different parts. You're going to guess 5 players that I have in my team.
Okay.
I'm going to guess 5 players that you have in your team.
Okay.
And then the third thing the next thing you guess is how many players overlap for the 2 of us.
Okay.
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 So, what are your 5 guesses for who I have in my team?
So, my 5 guesses for who you have in your team. I think you definitely have 1 Manchester United player in there. I know that's not, but I'm going to think it's Paul Pogba.
No, I actually didn't put. I should have put him, but I didn't.
Harry Kane?
No.
Modric?
No. I knew that. See, this is the mind games going on. Yeah.
Hugo Lloris?
No.
And then this one, I'm not basing this purely on his World Cup performance, but James Rodriguez?
No, I didn't. Courtois for you? No.
No.
Pavard, the French guy?
No, but I was thinking about it.
Oh man, Cruz.
No.
Oh, Mandzukic.
No.
Isco.
No.
We just completely missed. Okay, how many people do you think we overlap?
How many people overlap?
Yeah.
I think 0 overlap.
I think 1. I'm going for 1. Okay, go ahead with your team.
Okay, so I have Romelu Lukaku.
Okay, up front.
I also have up front with him, well, I guess kind of floating role in my team maybe.
Yeah.
I would like to think this is a more fluid team. Neymar.
Okay.
And then below those 2, I actually have Xhaka.
What? Oh, you Albanian sympathist? No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
People can't see it, but I'm making the double eagle right now.
Yeah, keep going.
Iniesta.
He had a terrible tournament.
I didn't think he was that bad.
Okay.
I didn't think he was that
They
bad.
lost to Russia. But anyway.
I mean, as a team, I think they played
He was
badly. But he played quite well, I think.
Okay.
Then I have Kante.
Oh, of course. I should have...
Yeah, you should. Why would you not?
Yeah, anyway.
And then Modric.
Okay. That's your midfield.
That's my midfield.
Backline?
My backline is a bit rickety because I was just trying to think of people to... So CB Godin.
Okay.
And then Koulibaly.
Oh, good call. Yeah, he's fantastic.
I thought he was fantastic. Yeah. And then Soares from Portugal.
Yeah.
And then Nagatomo from Japan.
Oh, did he play?
I think he played a little bit, but I'm basing this more off of
who you like.
Who I like and their whole season.
And goalie?
I actually went with Pickford. I thought he played quite well.
He did. Okay, my team. Kasper Schmeichel in goal. Godin, we both had Godin. I had Granqvist from Sweden and Mina from Colombia.
Okay.
Trippier from England playing as the right winger for me. Casemiro, Cheryshev, Ndidi, and Perisic. I fell in love with Perisic over the World Cup. Mbappe up front. And Lukaku. So we had 2 players on the same. Okay. So none of us got anything right.
Excellent. Yeah. That sounds about right for me.
I do think the people who listen to this podcast need to go back to that happy place of the World Cup, though. So that was the purpose of that entire
That was a fun World Cup.
It was really good. We should have a World Cup special sometime. There was plenty of World Cup chat, actually.
World Cup. World Cup is talked about.
4 more years. Whitecaps are playing Portland the weekend. Oh man, it just seems relentless. And I know it's only the start of this really tough run. Rest players or go for it? On the Sunday show, they were of the opinion that we have to go for all these 3 games.
You think? I would say. I think they're going to rest players. I mean, they rested players for NYCFC,
but Portland is
kind of dug themselves into a hole.
Yeah, we knew that already.
I mean, you go for it. I mean, sure, go for it. I mean, I don't have any problem with that. But then, how thin are you going to stretch yourself? Right? Are we going to have Gazal playing at center back again, or
against this against Portland's attack, I would strongly advise against that.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, like there are many issues with this team that it's kind of hard to address, like as a whole.
Structural.
Yeah, I think
maybe strategic decisions that were.
Yeah, but like, how much control does Robbo have over his strategy? Right, like.
Yeah, I know that would be decided at the beginning of the year, right? Like.
Yeah.
And you're kind of too far in it now to like pull out.
Unless you sack the coach.
Yeah.
Like, are we getting to that point, do you think? Like, if the Whitecaps lose
I feel like
a
couple weeks ago, people were way more pissed off.
Yeah.
And there was a lot more outrage.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that outrage has subsided because people are, there were some good results.
Yeah, well, the Minnesota game came at just the right time for the Whitecaps.
Yeah, or is it because people are being like, this team is very limited in a certain sense?
Yeah, but I think there's still an expectation to put an effort in to win, right? Like, that's what this comes back to. Like, it's an away game. It's at Portland. These games mean a lot to the fans, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see them. Based on the way this year is going, you would think that the thing is usually the team that does terrible in the MLS seems to win the Cascadia Cup. Like, that's like
I agree with that sentiment a little bit, actually. The one concern that like I didn't have before the game the TFC game that I do have now is that Kamara had to come off tired. Davies had cramp at the end of the game. Mm-hmm. Another couple of those players in the midfield ran their hearts out.
On the plus side, Felipe is well rested.
It's true, Felipe. But I think suspensions carry over because Juarez was suspended for this game because he got a red card in MLS. And so, therefore, by that logic, Felipe is also suspended as well. And that's not his first red card, is it? It might be, actually.
I think it's his first red card.
There's so many now.
There's so many. I think it's 8 red cards.
That must be, that's 8 now, which is ridiculous.
Which is, this is like...
If red cards were goals, red cards would be our top goal scorer. Like, it's at that point. Let's discuss some structure then for the Whitecaps. Like Portland, we've just talked about, are frightening in attack. Can you see any other way that Rob will set up other than this very
4-4-2,
very low block 4-4-2?
This team the Portland team does like to get out on the counterattack. So maybe being in a low block will actually force them to try to break you down.
Yeah.
But then I would think when I look at Diego Valeri, he's creative enough to break down.
Oh, absolutely. So, and not to mention that this Whitecaps team, their confidence is going to be shot. Yeah. Like especially the back line, because it's fundamentally that they're not. I don't like this is a harsh thing to say, but it's their fault about that goal. Like, it's so hard to like look for even a plan. Like, what's the plan going to be? Remember when we used to have Cascadia games and we would focus on set pieces, right?
Yeah.
That would be a legitimate plan. Palmuduka got 2 goals against Seattle one time.
And one of them was a nice, like, backheel little...
Yeah, like, why can't we seem to formulate something like that now?
I think it has to go back to the beginning of the year with the transfers. Especially, like, if I look at the Tim Parker situation.
Yeah.
Where... It was, I guess maybe it was assumed, and maybe it was assumed wrongly, that, they would be able to work it out and he could get like a reasonable contract. But that didn't happen. And so what ended up happening is we traded him away for some assets, which is like the best thing, I guess, you can do in that situation.
Making the best of a bad
situation. But then we get an extra midfielder, which maybe...
We didn't need, I don't think. But we got Aha separate transfer.
And we got Aha... as separately, and then we got Henry as well.
Yeah.
So
he was injured in preseason, but essentially he was new.
But he was new, and so was there a lack of ability to gel because a lot of these transfers? That's I guess the thing is it feels like these transfers are a bit haphazard, and maybe that's a little bit, disingenuous. I would hope. I mean, I assume it's a professional organization. They got to do their homework on stuff.
You'd be surprised.
But,
I'm reading that book, Soccernomics.
Yeah.
And they're not afraid to point out teams that, like big teams, like, big European teams that
just buy.
Yeah, like a big example they had was you sign a player for like 60 million, and then you don't help them settle down. Like you don't give them a translator
or whatever,
or tell them where the library is, or set their kids up in a school. Like I think a lot of things we take for granted that would happen, and we would be surprised that actually don't happen, right? Yeah. Okay, let's zoom in on the game a little bit more though. We 4-4-2, right?
Probably.
Slightly rotated team.
Well, that seems to be what we're doing.
And like we've discussed this at length already, but it feels like I don't know what it's actually going to be like, but it's like hope for the best kind of a thing. Let's put these players out there with a slight game plan. Give the ball to Davies. Take advantage of counterattacks and set pieces. Yeah. So based on that, but what if he's too tired? Like after this game,
then Breckshea, I guess, starts.
God, yeah.
To be fair, he got that assist for Hurtado at NYCFC,
that's true.
And he was not at fault defensively for the goal of this game,
which is a positive in his book. Do you see Hurtado starting?
I would love to see Hurtado start because he played fantastically during that 30 minutes.
Yeah,
he closed down well.
But is his role more as a sub? Is the thing? Maybe
his role is as a sub, but as a sub, sometimes you got to start games too.
Yeah.
Right? Especially if you're going to be that depth player guy.
The super sub tag is a terrible tag because it means you're on the bench all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I see him more as like a depth player now. I wish his performances were, more consistent.
If he can get the consistency of not even to the level that he's been performing these last two games, but
I mean, if he could do that consistency of him performing the last 2 games,
he
would be starting for this team, right?
And he would get a nice big contract.
Yeah, and then we wouldn't really have to worry too much about our striker.
Yeah, but I don't think it's realistic to expect a goal a game. Or if he played the full 90 minutes, it's a hat trick a game because he had one goal in 30 minutes today.
Yeah.
So by my math,
but like I was saying, maybe he's one of these players that's going to be a late blooming kind of character. Maybe
there's plenty of them in MLS.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, Reyna looked really good. I like if I was picking the squad, I'd have him in behind.
Reyna was I would definitely have him in behind, not on the right wing.
And we both agreed off mic in a separate conversation that Gazal and Tybert, or that was on mic, sorry. Gazal and Tybert are our best midfield combination right now.
I think so because we have so much creativity on the wings.
Yeah,
you don't necessarily need Felipe to be creativity in the middle.
It seems like when we get these midfield red cards, it actually solves more problems than they create.
That's what I'm saying. The strategy is go into Portland
and get a red card.
Wreck one guy. Just destroy his legs.
Take out Valeri. Just nullifies their threat and creates opportunities.
Just totally destroy a man. Maybe it's
like the Caps are too jammed, right? And they need to open up some space by getting rid of one of their players.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a little bit kind of what it feels like in some cases. Yeah. It's like there's so many options.
Yeah, and they're freed up more to play the long ball that they actually want to play.
Yeah.
I don't think like Tybert's ball over the top for Hurtado's goal.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but he won't get that kind of time against Portland or that kind of a high line to play up against. So it's going to be a different game. Tactically.
I think ideally you would have your pretty creative players in there.
Yeah,
trying to do something like maybe Teixeira.
But Reyna's role in the team would be to
be creative. Yeah. But I mean, the more creative threats that you have,
the
better chance you have of breaking down their kind of compactness and getting through their midfield.
If I was picking the team, I would rest Teixeira this game and play Mesquita on the right wing instead. Or have Mesquita as the second striker and have Reyna on the right wing.
Yeah, he didn't do too bad offensively on the right wing, but he was pretty bad defensively, and maybe that was because of his tiredness.
Or alternatively, how's this? You put Shea on the left wing and Davies on the right wing, and they can switch around and see what happens.
Yeah, I mean,
I think Teixeira just needs a break because he's known to get tired, and when he gets tired, he doesn't defend, and that's a problem.
He actually was defending quite well at the beginning of the
Yeah. No, his side was not the issue.
He was not doing much offensively, that's for sure.
I think he's the kind of player that you ask one or the other basic, not like entirely, but Christian, focus on your defense today, right? And then he'll go and do it maybe. Okay, let's talk about the back line. Nerwinski seems to be going strong.
Nowinski is good, but do you want to rotate for Franklin?
I think this would be a good game for Franklin.
Okay.
No, like if it's a
I would agree with that.
Yeah, and left back, Levi's or De Jong.
De Jong wasn't amazing.
One or two good moments, and some good tackles.
Good moments and some good tackles. But yeah, I could see either or. I mean, I don't think it really matters. I think it's a good opportunity, maybe.
Yeah. Goalie, I don't think there's any dispute there. But centre back, we have to talk about it. Okay. Watson had a little bit of a break last week.
Yeah.
I think he can play through, and he's such an important player for the team. Henry, does he get dropped for that mistake? Just your gut feeling.
I think he might not play this game, but I think he'll play
next week.
I
think I can see that happening,
especially because of the Canadian content.
Yeah.
Rule.
Oh, so, that's true. That's very true.
So I could see him, and I mean, like, he played so well.
Yeah.
He played very well
up until that point.
Yeah. And that was such a terrible way to finish your game.
Yeah.
Is scoring against your own net
against your former team.
Because obviously the people are going to be asking questions. Is he a TFC plant?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
What?
I just saw a tweet, and it's not verified, but Daniil Henry now has 4 goals for TFC in the Canadian Championship.
Think about it. Think about it, people.
Yeah. That's a pretty outstanding stat right there.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to some questions, because we've got plenty of them before the game that were about this kind of Portland game. Arturo, our good friend, if the Venezuelan Golden Boot winner, which is Blundell, continues to be less than impressive for the Whitecaps, what other countries' Golden Boot winners should the Caps realistically target?
Ooh, good question.
So in order to sign for the Whitecaps, he's not going to be La Liga's Golden Boot winner,
exactly.
for sure.
Yeah.
So think of more obscure countries. Irish Premier League, of course, for me.
How about Poland?
Oh, but they have some good teams like Legia Warsaw, and that's all I can think of right now. Oh, yeah. Poznan.
Poznan.
Yeah.
I'm trying Russia.
That's too good too. the guy Juba plays for in the Russian league, I think. So that's too good of a caliber. And they have like Zenit St. Petersburg and teams like that. I don't think.
Well, I'm thinking
Irish Premier League is where the MLS teams need to go shopping, man.
What about Austria?
Yeah, could be. Yeah, there's plenty of options. I think we don't go back to Venezuela, though, just to answer Arturo's question.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, it's unfortunate that it hasn't really worked out for Blundell.
Yeah, we've had
a lot of promise.
I don't think it's done and dusted for him. Michael McCall said, wasn't Vasco Fry, which is the player that the Caps have been rumoured with, isn't he an old brand of cooking oil in the UK? You've never been to...
I've never been to the UK. So.
I'm not from the UK. I'm from Ireland, Nick, so I can't really answer that question.
Perhaps. Maybe he is. I mean, that would be good. I guess, like, would it be good, though, for a team that has this disciplinary issues to be having...
Bring in someone with that much heat.
And with that much, explosion, sizzling mentality.
I think
that might be a bad idea.
I think we go as far down this road as we can and just become a team of Roy Keanes. That's my opinion.
You think? Yeah, I mean, like, they played better down,
Yeah.
So maybe...
Yeah, we're not letting go of that rhetoric, are we? Okay, let's talk a little bit about transfers now. Ibini's gone. Some cap space has opened up. There's those 2 players that the Whitecaps are rumoured with, but, we don't know if that's going to happen before... It's 10 p.m. right now. Will it happen before... The deadline closes in an hour and 59 minutes. We don't know.
Good question.
That'll be for Sunday's show. But let's compare it to Portland because we're playing them this weekend. They just traded Vitas to DC United, promising fullback, and DC United need a fullback. They moved Fernando Adi to Cincinnati.
Yeah, that was a weird one. So Cincinnati, what was it? The way I've interpreted it is that Cincinnati had. Because they're being promoted, in quotes, to MLS, they now have MLS TAM and GAM and spam and funny money.
Yeah.
So they used the not real money to get an MLS player to come down to the USL
to
own USL level players.
He is a designated player. This is also what I've just read. I'm not sure if it's 100% accurate, but he's a designated player and he is technically loaned to the USL for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Yeah. I hope that's right because it seems unnecessarily complicated.
It just seems unnecessarily
Why couldn't Portland loan him to... Or maybe that's what happened. I don't know. Yeah, like... The point I wanted to make when I started this discussion about transfers was Portland are dealing in assets and the Whitecaps are trying to put out dumpster fires.
Okay, so is that Breck-Shea or
we got rid of Abini, which was huge.
Yeah.
And Breck-Shea is another one. There's just players on the roster that like we don't want there. Right? Like it's very open that Hurtado might have been in this box before he had this really good run of form.
Well, like I think Hurtado, though, doesn't have...
He has a tiny contract, which is why he's a great person to have around.
Yeah.
But, like, as a wider point, like, we want assets, and we just don't seem to... We seem to have a lot of allocation money, and we're going to get all that Davies money, but, like, it doesn't translate from finances to on-the-field product. Whereas a team like Portland are giving something and getting something back, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, Portland are making moves... But then they already had Armientos, right?
Yeah.
Before this.
And Addy was playing a bit part role.
Yeah. So it's not like a total unknown. You know, they were trying to move. That's the problem, right? Do you really have a person to replace? No,
we don't have depth. We don't have...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like, it's just not... We're not on the same level as a team like Portland, and I'm not afraid to say that because it's evident.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think the organization needs to do better, and that's not news. That's not news at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. 2 hours left in the transfer window. Let's hope there's a different taste in our mouth by the end of it.
Yeah. Who knows?
By the time you get home, Nick, we could have another designated player.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to the last part of the show. Prediction game.
Mm-hmm.
I finally added up all the scores.
Okay.
So let's start at 2 weeks ago, Minnesota. In that game, Nick, you said that Quintero would have a goal, and you said that Quintero would have an assist.
Mm-hmm.
He had 2 assists, so you get 1 point from that. You said that Gazala would get a yellow, and that did not happen. Okay. I said Ibsen would get a goal, Kamara would get a goal, and Watson would get a yellow, and all 3 of those happened.
Watson yellow is a cheap one, though.
That's why I'm top of the table, though. I've said that. That's probably more than half my points have been Watson
yellows. Yeah.
I think it's the first hat trick in the prediction game too.
Yeah, that's true. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'll get a tattoo to mark the occasion.
Yeah.
Last week you said that Davies would sub on and have 6 dribbles. He had no dribbles.
Mm-hmm.
I had to make sure that the website was giving me the correct thing. I couldn't believe he actually had no dribbles. You said that Ben Sweat would have a passing accuracy of 85%. He had 83%. So by AFTN preview podcast rules, it's plus or minus 2.5, so you're good.
Yeah.
Reina assist did not happen. Last week I said that Sean Johnson would have 6 saves. He didn't even play. Aha would have a yellow. He didn't play. And Hurtado would sub on, which did happen. And I think that's a rare enough thing that it counts as a prediction. So yeah, the season standings are I'm on 16, and yourself and Gideon are on 10.
Okay.
Let's get some predictions for this week. Fernando Addy goal you can't say that.
Unfortunately I can't say that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say Hurtado's on a roll.
Hurtado goal.
So I'm going to say Hurtado gets a goal.
Cool.
I'm going to say Valeri also gets an assist.
Okay.
And here I'm going to throw out another random stat because I want you to go and find it. There will be 17 throw-ins.
That's not a lot of throw-ins.
For the Whitecaps.
Oh, for the Whitecaps. Oh, just making it as difficult as possible. All right, Antonella will have 7 saves. Alphonso Davies will get a yellow card. And Armientos will score a goal. Those are my 3 predictions.
Okay.
All right. Nick, if people would like to hurl abuse or kind words at you, where can they find you?
At SpaceAgeRobot56 on Twitter.
Very good. I am at Joe DC Van. Let's hope we are still in one piece by next time we record.
Yeah.
It could be a tough ride because it's a Portland game and we're probably going to record after the Toronto game next week.
Yeah. Life is tough.
It is. Like, we could be basically out of the playoffs and out of the Canadian Championship.
And, out of the Cascadia Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. And our Ultimate Frisbee team could be out of the playoffs too.
Yeah, probably.
Which would be... probably. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting few weeks. Keep the faith, I guess, right?
Well, life is difficult.
Yeah, it's true. That's a different podcast, though.
Yeah.
Our advice podcast recording is after this one, right? Yeah. Thanks very much for listening to episode 290 of the AFTN podcast. You can find all our Whitecaps content, UBC soccer content, all that kind of stuff at aftn.ca. Thank you very much for listening, and enjoy the game.
When you're listening in some far-flung corner of the globe to the World Service of a Saturday afternoon, crackly reception, interference, cosy, marvellous. Somehow comforting, isn't it? You know, legendary names, fathers and sons on the terraces, cheesy peas at half-time, pint for dad, mum's at home making the tea. Everything's all right with the world, isn't it? Saturday afternoon is football.